Necesito una hamburguesa en mis pantalones. In mis pantalones. That doesn't seem right. Hi there, Lord JEG here, and what I wanted to do today is talk about expropriating. Okay, that is leaving your country of residence and going somewhere else. This is by no means a comprehensive guide. This is just something that a lot of people have expressed some interest in, especially with the, people are finally starting to see the writing on the wall that certain of us have seen for the past, probably more than 30 years. It's just that now most of us, of my generation, Gen X basically, are finally, through one way or the other, in a position to actually do something about it. And the problem is that you can get a lot of information on YouTube and on the internet, and even from family and friends, although that always comes with a heavy bias, not that the other ones don't. But basically I just kind of want to give you my take on it, kind of put my spin on things. So whatever, call it a quick and dirty guide, call it whatever you want. Basically, this is me mumbling about kind of what to do, formulating a plan, and then the most important part, actually acting on it. So I guess the most obvious thing is again, I moved to Mexico. Now, I have a bunch of reasons, and I'm not really going to go into them here. There's really no point in it. Let's just say that they're various and multiple. Okay. I've been following for probably, I've wanted to get out for the past 30 years, but since I'm not particularly rich, because, I came from a lower middle class kind of background, I'm not particularly imaginative or talented, so I had to wait, because I had to have a method to get the resources that I needed to make my move. Now again, it took me 30 years, but here I am. I started when I was 20. Now I'm over 50. And so there you go. You always have to keep your eye on the prize. That's the hardest thing for most people. So seriously, for the past 20 years, I've kind of kept an eye on the things, the places that are kind of in vogue at the time. And this is just a small list that I've made over the years. Okay, so this is by no means comprehensive. Some of these, in fact, I would go so far as to say most of these are still pretty good choices. And if you're looking to get out of the U.S. and you need something that has relatively low barrier to entry, the majority of these are actually still a fairly good point, fairly good countries to look at. No particular order. Portugal is the really hot one now. Puerto Rico, that was kind of a popular one with Bitcoin miners and cryptocurrency guys and internet millionaires, that sort of thing. YouTuber type guys. That was popular a few years ago. Vietnam's always a solid one, has been for probably at least the past 20 years. Ghana, believe it or not, especially if you really feel, as an African American or whatever you identify for yourself as, if you really feel that you're getting the shaft here in the States, Ghana is a good place to go. Chances are, if you took a genetic test, you would find that a good part of your DNA is from Ghana or Cameroon or Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, that sort of West Africa, central west kind of Africa, type of area. That's where the majority of the slaves came from. So, so Ghana, always a good choice if you're of African descent. Spain, Argentina, Chile, the whole South America, that particular area, Uruguay, Paraguay, that whole area. Brazil, not so much. Colombia is actually a pretty valid. Colombia is actually really nice. Central America, always a good choice. Panama, Costa Rica. I've even had some friends that have gone to Nicaragua, believe it or not. Nicaragua and El Salvador. I don't think you could pay me to go to El Salvador. I might think about Nicaragua, maybe. British Honduras, which is I'm spacing. Belize, always a good choice. Used to be back in the mid '90s. That was kind of the thing. Is people would talk about buying a finca in Costa Rica, and or buying some property in Belize, because Costa Rica and Belize were really, at that time, they were really kind of the hot spots to go to. Not so much anymore. Again, too many Americans have crapped it up, made everything really expensive. But it is what it is. Still cheaper than the U.S. Still has reasonable entry requirements. Panama's the same way. Hard to go wrong with a lot of Central America. Let's see. Thailand, the up-and-comer a few years ago was Rangoon, but now, or Burma, I don't know what they call it now. But anyway, Burma, Rangoon, whatever. That whole Golden Triangle kind of area is kind of a nice place to go. Thailand, Vietnam, Burma. That cost of living is really cheap. Especially in Thailand, great medical care, good facilities, has, the big, Bangkok has, first world infrastructure in most of it, and even and if you go in the country, I know, because I know a guy who has a tea farm out there, and it's beautiful. It's a great place, but the thing is, even if you go native, even if you marry a native girl or whatever, you'll never be one of them. You'll never fit in. They may treat you well, they may treat you nice, the fact that you have, a leg up, a little money, the Asians, as a general rule, are pretty good about that, but you'll never be one of them. You'll always be an alien, and in a lot of ways, you will always feel like an alien. Now, most of us, especially from Gen X, we kind of always felt like aliens in our own society, so it's not a big deal. But just be aware of that. Okay. Let's see. The former Eastern European republics, Georgia, Estonia. Before they joined the EU, Romania would have been a great choice. Not so much now, I don't think. Back in the early '90s, Romania, geez, man. You could have made $50 a month, and you could have lived like a king. It was great. I spent some time there. Spent some time in Romania. Spent some time in Eastern Europe, or the Balkans. Just before the balloon went up with the destruction of Yugoslavia, it broke into Serbia and Montenegro and everything, and I actually have some family on my mom's side from that part of the world, and same thing, beautiful place, cold but beautiful, and you can live quite well there on the cheap. You probably still can. I haven't been there since the mid '90s, so everything I'm saying is just speculation. But again, former Soviet republics, great place. They saw the monster. They saw communism up close, and they are in no hurry to go back. They look at the United States and what's going on, and they laugh. They go, "You people are so stupid. You just don't know how ridiculous you are." Let's see. I think that's kind of the short list. And then the one that's most overlooked is Mexico. Now, Mexico gets a bad rap, of course, because of, immigration, illegal aliens, etc., etc. But fun fact, most of the illegal immigration isn't really from Mexico anymore. It's actually from, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras kind of thing. Mostly El Salvador and Guatemala more than anything. But and the usual stuff. Mexico is a willing conduit, so yes, they do have some culpability. I mean, let's not whitewash it. But as far as being an expat, that's kind of why I chose Mexico. And now people are finally starting to get on board. I mean, there's a certain set of expats that have known for years about Mexico, but they haven't kept it like exactly hush hush. But it's always one of those things, Mexico has this reputation of being just another third world shithole. And I mean, you can definitely go to places and it is third world, but even if you go to Tijuana or I don't know, one of the Texas border towns or whatever, but any of the bigger cities, I mean, it's first world. It has first world infrastructure. It has internet. It has reliable power. It has reliable water. It has sewers that work. Although, depending on the part of town, you still can't flush the toilet paper, and that's a whole whole thing that. It's happened so long that now it's cultural, whether they have the infrastructure to process toilet paper or not. It's one of those things, and we won't even go there because it can get ugly and stinky. But so that's it. So there's the first step. Pick a country. Okay. So then this next step is look at what you're going to need. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, that means, do you need a visa? As a U.S. citizen, you have, as a general rule, your passport is your visa for a large amount of countries. Now, granted, Corona-chan has screwed that up. So you may have, in some countries, you may have to go through a quarantine. You may have to pay some sort of, whatever, traveling death visa or something like that. And, again, do your research on that. Mexico does not have that, at least in the places that I know of. Now, if you fly into Mexico, they may give you a hard time. If you fly into one of the major airports in Mexico, you may have to show some stuff. I don't know. But if you're driving into Mexico, I tell you, on some weekends where, it's backed up, they're just waving you through. They don't even care. You have to remember, 25% or more of the Mexican economy is based on tourism. So now that everything is starting to lighten up, it was kind of bad last year around July, August-y kind of time. It was kind of bad. It was kind of hard for some people. But honestly, right now, they want you here. So they're like, come on in, gringo. Give us your money. Give us your money and then get the hell out. But even then, the people that stay, you can do it above board. You can do it not above board. And honestly, it's not a big deal either way. Okay? You want to make sure that you research into it. For those of you that are interested in Mexico, I'll just give you the quick and dirty rundown. There's what's called an FMM, and that's basically a 180-day visa. It costs about $30. It's good for 180 days. Just carry it with you. and usually no problems. You can get what's called a temporary residency card. You got to go to a consulate in the States for that. Don't go to the San Diego one. It's always packed and it's a pain in the ass. Just don't do it. Okay? I can't speak for... Actually, I can. The Las Vegas one is not too bad. I haven't really talked to anybody in, like, Texas or Arizona or anything, so I can't tell you, but I imagine they're probably not nearly as bad. The San Diego one, though, don't even think about it. The Los Angeles one, don't even think about it. It's terrible. You'll make an appointment, and they may remember it, they may hold you to it, they may not. But and so temporary residency and then permanent residency. Difference between temporary residency and permanent residency, very little. If you have permanent residency, you can work in the country. You can start a business, you can work. If you have a temporary residency, you cannot legally start a business, you cannot legally work. You basically, you're there basically as a retiree or as a tourist. You're a resident, but basically it's a tour. You're basically a tourist for all intents and purposes. After 5 years, if you have your permanent residency, you can apply for naturalization. After naturalization, you can become a citizen. They will issue you a Mexican passport, and you can take the test. You got to know some Mexican history. You got to have a command of the language. And again, you're in like Flint if that's what you want. I'm of the personal opinion that the more passports you have, the better. So yeah, that may be an option. And the cost, if you do it yourself, the cost, you could probably be all in for like I say, the FMMs are $30. A temporary residency and permanent residency, if you do it yourself, you probably, I don't know, $200-300, maybe $500. There's lots of services. There's a lot of dual citizens that have that's their gig. They get you through. They do the paperwork. They do everything. Cost you about $1,000, between $1,000 and $2,000, depending on what you want done, how much you want done. So that may be the way to go. Okay, so. And then next is you're going to need to look at what you're going to spend in money. Most countries will let you in on a visitor's visa. They'll let you in, and most of them, it just depends. Some are 14 days, some are 30 days, some are 90 days, some are whatever. Because they know you're leaving. Okay, they don't want you to be a burden on their services. So when you start looking into the foreign residency type things, well, you're going to have to show that you've got some money. They want to be, and they will check. They legitimately check. They look up on these things. And so, what are you going to need for money? Mexico, it's not that bad. Again, speaking from personal experience, you got to be able to show that you've got an income of about, as of now, roughly $2,200 a month. If you have a spouse, it's just add another half of that, basically. So so if that's the case, $3,300 a month. Okay. Other countries are similar. I don't know what it is. Now, can you live on $3,300 a month? Oh yeah, you can live quite well on $3,300 a month. You can live a middle class existence in Mexico easily on $2,200 a month. Okay? If you want to live like an American, you're going to spend American money. It's going to cost you more. But if you want to live a modest middle class existence, you can do it. You figure whatever you're spending right now in the States, figure 2/3 to half that. Okay, so whatever, you be the judge of that. Okay, next step is boots on the ground. Take some vacations. you know, rent a whatever, you know, rent some, you do some traveling, rent some spots for a week, you know, look around. Before we came down, we would every time there's a 3-day weekend, that's what we'd do. We'd come down and we'd you know, we'd stay someplace. We'd stay at an Airbnb, or you know, we'd pick a spot, you know, in wherever, and that's what we'd do. We'd stay for a few days and look around, get to know kind of an area that you like. Once you find it, you know, when you come down, start hanging out somewhere, you know, find a place that's yours, that you fit in, that you blend in, and start asking around. Don't go off of Mercado Libre, which is, you know, like basically like the Mexican Craigslist kind of, you know, because a lot of times, you know, that's what most people do. They'll go to Craigslist, and you know, the Craigslist for Mexico, at least for the Baja California, you know, the Tijuana area, it's pretty horrible because they know that's what the gringos are going to look at, so you're going to pay. Again, you're going to pay gringo prices. Okay, Mercado Libre is a little better, but honestly, the best thing is just word of mouth. You know, get to know some locals, get to know some guys. Everybody knows everybody in most foreign countries. Doesn't matter how big it is, how small it is. Everybody knows a guy, and that's just how it works. Okay. So you do your boots on the ground, figure out a spot, find something, and then probably the most important part, go. You know, don't sit around, don't make excuses, just go. You know, pack it up, go. That's what we did. You know, Corona, we were planning to make our move a little later in the year, but the way that things kind of just worked out with Corona, you know, I retired in February. You know, Corona hit full swing in March last year, and by June we had a place, and by October we were completely moved out, you know. So there's that. Fitting in, you know, as a you know, I mean, you take a look at me, nobody's going to mistake me for a Mexican, obviously, you know, which isn't entirely true. I mean, you look, the people who run things, they have a high amount of Spanish blood, among other things. You know, there was the Germans in the mid to late 1800s tried to do a little bit as far as taking over Mexico. So there's actually a pretty big German population down here, which is hilarious. I know a guy. He's a Mennonite Amish. You know, guy speaks perfect lowland German, but you know, he's completely Mexican. You know, fluent in Spanish and everything else. But it's just hilarious. You know, you see a dude with the whole Amish Mennonite thing and the whole white button-up shirt with the black vest and the pants and the hat and everything, talking Spanish. It's a little bit of culture shock, kind of funny though. But again, fitting in. You know, get to know some locals. Get to know, you know, where I'm at in particular is what's known as it's kind of a place with a lot of Chicanos. A lot of they were born in America. They work in the States, you know, but they have dual citizenship, or they come here often because they have family here or whatever, you know. So they're still Mexicans, but you know, it's good to know them because they interface with the locals. You know, they know you, you know them. You know, when you're with them, it's kind of like having the OK symbol. You know, it's like, all right, this guy's cool. You know, leave him alone. And that's kind of what you do, you know, no matter where you're at. You know, now you have to be a decent judge of character. You know, if your buddy in, you know, wherever else you're at, say you decide to land in Vietnam and, you know, the first guy you meet becomes your friend, well, you can pretty much assume that that guy's looking for something, you know. So you do have to be discerning. But, you know, but once you're in, that's what you do, you know. Make some locals, make some friends, you know. And just kind of, you know, be useful, okay? And that applies anywhere. It doesn't matter. If you're, that even applies in the States. If you're from Nevada and you're, say you're a carpenter or something like that, and you go to Tennessee, say, right? And, you know, they think a lot of places in the South, they see anybody north of, you know, anybody that's comes from north of Kentucky and west of, say, Arkansas as a Yankee, you know, and that's just the way it is. You're just a damn Yankee invading. So, you know, it's the same thing. Get to know some local guys. Get in with the local guys, you know. You don't want to be, if the balloon goes up, you know, you don't want to be the Yankee when, you know, when the next Southern Revival comes along, right? So it's kind of the same deal, you know. Make sure that you have some skills. Make sure that you're in good with people, and, you know, that you may not be one of them, but, you know, you may be a foreigner, but you're their foreigner, right? So I'm looking at you, Vox Day. But anyway, I always wanted to say that, just for fun. But anyway, so that's about it, you know. Figure out what you're going to do if you're going to go. Choose the place you're going to go. Look into what you need to go. Go. Do some research on where you want to go so you know really where you want to go, and then go. That's it in a nutshell. Anyway, that's all I got for now. It's been a little wordy. If you've stuck around this long, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't, it's like, well, I'm just talking to myself, and I could probably use a shave, it looks like. So, yeah, maybe I'll go do that. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Take care. See you next time.